Hey everyone. Recently I saw a tweet and a link post from a developer who said, this is how I would use each command and wrap to verify that a card in a list of cards has all the information that's supposed to have there. You get list of li items, and assuming that each li is a card, we wrap the element and we say contains name, contains maybe language, contains number of issues, contains href. And in this video, I want to explain how I would write this same test, not only in more elegant way, shorter way, and simpler to understand way, but most importantly, correct way. Because this test has two at least big errors that will trip you up. Okay, so we're gonna start by just implementing the same test. So I have it right here, iterating over li elements, wrapping the element, and using contains command. And for the data, I just came up with a list of projects. Each one has name, number of issues, number of events, and status, and some initial markup that simulates the page. We have li elements and project A, name, and so on. Let me start Cypress and show this in action. End-to-end testing, Electron, move it to the side, check cards. Okay, so you can see li elements for each project, and each command like contains is right here. And let's just quickly look at some of the problems that we can find. For example, project B is supposed to have 10 issues and number of events in our data should be 4. But notice that right here, there's one event in the last 24 hours. So how come it's passing? A great way when you're writing a test is to hover over querying commands and just make sure you find the right value. So for example, number of issues is 10, so it finds 10 in 10 issues text. Then we wrap the whole element again and we're looking for 4. So we found 4, but notice we found the 4 in the phrase in the last 24 hours. So we accidentally matched something incorrectly. For the last project, we're looking for 10, but we matched 100 because contains only finds a substring. You can use regular expression to be precise, but by default, it's a substring, not the full text. So all of these are accidental matches, and the test accidentally passes. Okay, even before we do anything about that issue, we can rewrite this code slightly better or maybe simpler. For example, instead of accessing the properties, we can just deconstruct that mock project and just use, for example, name in each property. Okay. Another thing, instead of wrapping the element just to find the text, we can say expect element to or include text, I think, name, num of issues, and include text, num events, and the same for status. And our cards are static, so the text doesn't change. We don't need retries. We can immediately use expect. Even better, in my opinion, is to just wrap the element just once and use within command. And now we can just use contains, and it's limited to that element, and it shows the groups very, very nicely in the command log. And as I said, we are accidentally passing the test, right? We're matching 4, even though there is no 4 events, we're matching 24 hours. So anytime you use contains, I would suggest instead of just matching the text, you match a selector and text. So we would add something like data name right here. Maybe we'll give it a class card. Okay, so we can add a data task attribute or data attribute, and now we can say, okay, get me all li card elements inside the main. And instead of just saying the name, you can say data sci equals name. Okay, now we need to assign the same class to everything, so all three elements have it. Okay, so now look at the contains name. We're not matching anything but the name. We're not matching the whole object and looking for text there. Okay, so let me add data sci attributes to each element. So right here, this is what I have. So number of issues, because just one number, 10 issues, can have data sci issues. But for example, the number of events, we create a span so that we only can select that number. And we added something for the status. So now we can say, okay, number of issues will be data sci. What was that? Issues. And if you don't have any special characters like spaces, you don't need quotes. Here we'll use 24H, and here we'll have status. Okay, and now we're catching, we're previously passing data assertion, right? So the second should have 4 issues, okay? And we also probably should do something about the number of issues so that we are checking for 10, we're not accidentally matching it. So what we can do, and here space. Okay, perfect. So now we're catching 100 issues, even though it should be 10 issues. Okay, and the last one, the href, we probably can say again contains and the text issues, because we will verify that that link is actually pointing the user at the issues. Okay, so it looks good to me. But the second problem that this test shows, it does the reverse of what should happen. Notice that we are taking the stuff that's shown on the page and we checking if it matches the data, right? And the data is right here in array. And we assume that the data is correct, not the rendering, because the render happens based on the data. So we have to go the opposite way, because what can happen is this. Let's say we have 3 projects in our data list, but only one is present on the page. Your test is passing. You cannot assume that the page is correct, because if you base your test on what the page is showing, you can base it on unconfirmed, incorrect rendering, incorrect nodes. So what do? Well, you flip it, right? For example, you can verify that the number of cards is the same as mock project's length. So you start with that. Then you iterate over the data, not over the page element. So you say for each, and what do you have? You say project index. Okay, so we are iterating over our data array. We can deconstruct the project, so we have the same thing. And now we'll say get me main li card at position index. Okay, so we got this element, we use now within, we don't need this, and we're verifying that at that index, the card number, for example, 3, which is index 2 because it starts at 0, has all correct information. This is how you're supposed to verify your page. You don't go for what the page is showing right now, because that might be incorrect. You're going from the data, and then you look up how that particular item is rendered on the page itself. So this recipe is available at my Cypress example site. I will link it in the description of this video. Probably will write a blog post with step-by-step refactoring. And if you have any situations similar to the original one where you want to show me how would I rewrite a test that seems to be too verbose, incorrect, accidentally passing, let me know.